Many have also been fooled into believing Trump has hinted at 9/11 truth, but this is nothing more than laughable to any real 9/11 researcher. What he has stated publicly on 9/11 thus far has been nothing but lies and misdirection. In addition to being friends with 9/11 perp Rudy Giuliani, Trump has focused on the limited hangout and misdirection angle of Saudi Arabia, which is what gatekeepers, disinfo agents, and the media focuses on, ignoring the huge elephant in the room, Israel. Trump has publicly stated that he saw quote-unquote thousands of Muslim Americans celebrating the 9/11 attacks in New Jersey, which is the biggest lie imaginable. The real truth Trump or your mainstream media will never mention is the only people actually documented celebrating the 9/11 event were a small handful of undercover Israeli Mossad agents who had been in the US for months and some for years, whose operation was busted by a nationwide FBI sting and were captured on the George Washington Bridge with explosives in their van of their front company, Urban Moving Systems.
The reports we're getting now, 2 or 3 men arrested on the New Jersey Parkway. Deborah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. That is the information that I'm getting from 2 sources, that there was a van either on the New Jersey Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway, and that it was near the George Washington Bridge. There were 2 or 3 men who were in the van. The van was pulled over. It is not clear why the van was pulled over, but when it was, law enforcers found tons of explosives inside of the van. That is right now all I'm hearing, but again, 2 to 3 people in custody, and we are trying to get more information on that right now.
200 Israeli people were arrested in America for being part of an Israeli spy ring. 140 before 9/11 and 60 afterwards. Many were posing as art students. How many people know that the centers, particularly one center in Florida, of this spy ring were the same places frequented by the alleged hijackers, including Mohammed Atta, in the same period? How many know that some of these people arrested for being part of this Israeli spy ring actually had homes in the same street as Mohammed Atta, in a place called Hollywood, which was the center of much of what these alleged hijackers were doing, and was also the center of this ring? Hello? How many people know that on the morning of 9/11, a lady looked out of her apartment in New Jersey, looking over to the burning tower, the first one, and saw 5 Middle Eastern looking men filming it, high-fiving and cheering? She took them to be Arabic. She called the police. The police eventually tracked them down. They had traveling around in a white van. They were Israelis. They became known as the Dancing Israelis. They were arrested and kept in custody for 71 days until the ultra-Zionist head of the criminal division of the Justice Department, Michael Chertoff, released them. And how many people know that the same Michael Chertoff released the 200 arrested in the spy ring?
I grabbed my binoculars and I could see the towers from my window. And this is where I'm looking. And all of a sudden, down there, I see this van parked. And I see 3 guys on top of the van. And I could see that they were like happy. They didn't look shocked to me. You know, they didn't look shocked. I thought it was very strange.
Amazingly enough, we have found the moving company where the 5 Israelis worked.
Was this building being used as a front for some kind of Israeli intelligence operation that possibly was doing surveillance on the Arab American community? Were there men celebrating or slapping 5s or whatever?
We had received an all points bulletin, and I just happened to see the van and, you know, hollered over to my lieutenant, you know, I think that could be the van. We checked it out, and it was. You know, we were all on edge, obviously, so I really wasn't looking to make friends with these people, and neither were the officers that I were with. Once we started talking to them, you know, they were pretty much like, hey, you know, we're not against you, we're with you.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is, we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event. Our purpose was to document the event.
Now, files declassified in America have revealed covert public relations and lobbying activities of Israel in the U.S. The National Archive made the documents public following a Senate investigation. They suggest Israel has been trying to shape media coverage of issues it regards as important. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Smith. I'd like to begin by asking you, what exactly do these files reveal?
These files are from a sealed Senate investigation, which was the result of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the U.S. Department of Justice looking into groups that brought $36 million into the U.S. to plant stories in the U.S. media and promote Israeli foreign policy objectives in the United States.
Well, it also makes you ask, how much will Americans really see if the U.S. media is so affected by these lobbyists, no?
Well, yeah, that's exactly the case, because once again, you know, we're replaying history. Now, instead of trying to divert attention away from nuclear weapons in the Middle East, a magazine, again, The Atlantic, is on the forefront of an AIPAC drive to get the United States to attack Iran's nuclear facilities, again, now under the pretext that they're nuclear weapons sites. So for the United States, it's extremely important for people to see this media influence and the mechanics of it, because over the passage of time, this has only gotten worse.
Since 9/11, we have thousands of pages of FBI, CIA, and DOJ reports documenting the arrests made on 9/11. The FBI report outlines the fact that the dancing Israelis were found to have taken 76 photographs, had maps, plane tickets, box cutters, and almost $5,000 in cash. In their 2004 civil lawsuit, the Israeli plaintiffs demanded their possessions and money back, in addition to many other demands. The declassified FBI reports also outline the little-known fact that additional Israelis driving vans were arrested by police in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Hampshire after the 9/11 attack. Numerous trucks and vans with explosives were stopped by police on 9/11. And, as outlandish and unbelievable as it may sound, one of the vans had a mural painted on the side of it depicting a plane crashing into the Twin Towers. This is confirmed by two sources. One, the New York Police radio transmission recordings from the day of 9/11. Two, it was also discussed by U.S. Transportation Secretary Norman Mineta himself in his February 2006 official report titled Saving City Lifelines, Lessons Learned in the 9/11 Terrorist Attacks. The report stated, quote, "There were continuing moments of alarm. A panel truck with a painting of a plane flying into the World Trade Center was stopped near the temporary command post. It proved to be rented to a group of ethnic Middle Eastern people who did not speak English. Fearing that it might be a truck bomb, the NYPD immediately evacuated the area, called out the bomb squad, and detained the occupants until a thorough search was made. The vehicle was found to be an innocent delivery truck." End quote. The report, of course, makes absolutely no mention of the truck exploding or the fact that these Middle Eastern people had actually been Israeli spies.
I got a message on that plane. It's a big truck with a mural painted of an airplane diving into New York City and exploding. I don't know what's in the truck. The truck is in between 6th and 7th on King Street.
I've got so many questions, but you are vindicated. This has got to be the 50th time the last 6 months on the radical Muslims celebrating, not just in New Jersey, but New York, Palestine, all over. What do you have to say? They're still attacking you, though we've got Dan Rather on video, we've got New York Post, we've got Washington Post, we've got, I mean, what's going on here? On the radical Muslims celebrating, not just in New Jersey, but New York, Palestine, all over. What do you have to say? They're still attacking you, though we've got Dan Rather on video, we've got New York Post, we've got Washington Post, we've got, I mean, what's going on here?
Well, I took a lot of heat and I was very strong.
Of course, even though Israel's involvement in 9/11 is now documented, proven, and verifiable fact, this information has been well swept under the radar. Most Americans will never realize what took place regarding the many Israeli spies arrested and detained on 9/11, only to be later released and sent back to Israel. This information will never be mentioned or covered by the mainstream media, let alone Donald Trump, and that is because he is obviously in bed with Israel and the Mossad.
What you have to understand is this is not leading toward an Israel of the world. It's leading toward a Marxist, socialist, utopian, or they believe it's utopian. It's going to be like the old Soviet Union, world government.
And whenever the media covers something up real well like this, the way they let Spiegelman go like that, you know it's the Jews who are behind it.
No, we don't know it's the Jews behind it, and I've never said that, and neither should you. George Bush is certainly not a Jew, but he's a part of it.
Right, he works for them. Yeah, they put him in office.
No, it's not that he works for them. You don't understand the structure of the organization that is actually bringing apart world government. The reason that they're able to recruit so many Jewish people to be a part of this is the Jews have never allowed themselves to assimilate as citizens, really, of any country. They're always Jewish. They always separate themselves. They always look forward to next year in Jerusalem. They believe themselves to be a part of a world, and they want to bring about a world government. So they're sympathetic to this whole one world government ideal. But the people at the heart and soul of all of this, and there are a lot of Jewish people involved, are what's called the Illuminati. George Bush is certainly not a Jew, but he's a part of it.
Rick Sanchez has been there throughout this morning for us. Rick, tell us where you are and what the latest is.
Well, I'm in that area, if you're familiar with this area, of where West Broadway and Hudson come together, right at Chambers. That would put us about a block and a half away from the site of where the explosion was. That area has just been evacuated because police have found what they describe as a suspicious device and they fear that it might be something that could lead to another explosion. Obviously, there's a real sense of caution here on the part of police. Their fear is that there may have been explosive device planted either in the building or in the adjacent area, and that's why they're being so cautious.
We've heard reports of secondary explosions after the aircraft impacted, whether in fact there wasn't something else at the base of the towers that in fact were the coup de grace to bring them to the ground.